It's great to have you with us from wherever you're tuning in from. For more information about Elevate Church or to contact us, head to our website elevatechurch.me and take us wherever you go by downloading our Elevate Church AU app. We hope this message inspires and helps you to take your next steps in your journey.
So listen, jumping into our message today, you've probably noticed that we use the word luck a lot. You know, we've got phrases with the word luck that you would have heard of all. We like to tell people good luck, that's fine. Luck of the draw, we call some people lucky in love. This week, I came across a story of a guy who I think we would actually put him in the category of lucky. This guy was in a very serious car accident. He was actually pronounced dead for 14 minutes before coming back to life, but things were so bad they had to put him into an induced coma for 2 weeks. Now he came out of the coma and he started realizing, I'm starting to feel a little bit lucky here. So he took a punt and he proposed to his girlfriend and she said yes. So he's like, I'm on a streak here. When he got released from hospital, he went and bought a scratchy. In Australia, scratch and win a scratchy. Scratched that off and he won a new car. And anyway, the local news network heard about this guy who's on this lucky streak, so they wanted to do a story and interview him. So they actually met him at the local convenience store, and the way they were going to fold this story is they wanted him to go in, buy a scratchy, a fresh one, come out and scratch it live in front of the cameras, which he did. Goes in, buys a scratchy, comes out, scratches it off live in front of the cameras, wins $250,000. Hello! Now, listen, I'm happy for the guy. I really am. I probably want to be that guy. Well, apart from the dead bit, but here's the thing. And I'm not here to litigate whether luck's real or not, whether you have to put one of those cats on your front of your house like the Taiwanese people do. And I'm not. Look, you figure that out for yourself. But here's what I want us to know. Here's what I want Jesus followers to know. And that is that we are not subject to some mysterious forces that may or may not be working against us or for us. That instead we follow and serve a God who is sovereign, who is in control, and, get this, who's actually laid out some principles that if we both learn them, step one, and consistently apply them, then over the trajectory we'll start to experience the outcomes that God, our Heavenly Father, has for us. We'll start to be better positioned to see more of God's blessing and success and favor in our lives. Now, before we get into this, I just want to know who I'm speaking to today. Who here wants to be more blessed in your life? Who here wants to be more blessed? Now, don't keep your hands up. Don't panic. This is not a trick question. If your hand's not up, put it up. Because why? More blessed in your marriage, more blessed in your health, more blessed in your job and career, more blessed with your kids, more blessed with your finances. Hello. Add to the list. Yeah, me too. I got both hands up. God, here I am. Bring the rain. So I'll repeat what I just said. The good news is our good God has outlined some principles in life and for life that if we learn them and consistently apply them, we will better position ourselves to experience more of God's blessing today. So this is the one I want to unpack today, the faithfulness principle. And it sounds just like this. When you're faithful with little, God can trust you with more. That's it. And I'll say that again on repeat as we go through, and I'm going to come back to that shortly. But we're in this teaching series we've called Jesus on Money. And every year we teach a series on God's principles of financial management. This year specifically, I just wanted to look at what did Jesus himself have to say about how we are to think about and approach money and stuff. And we're discovering that some of what Jesus had to say looks quite different to the cultural messaging that you and I are actually consistently exposed to and actually very much immersed in. The first week and the first principle that we looked at from Jesus was the treasure principle. And this idea where Jesus said, don't put your treasure on earth where people can steal it and moths can destroy it, but instead put your treasure in heaven. He made the point that you can't take it with you, but you can send some of it ahead. So invest in things of eternal value. Last week, we talked about the security principle. Don't make the mistake of thinking like God's all about blessing you. He's happy for you to be successful financially, be blessed financially, to have more financially. But the mistake is thinking that it's all about you and all for you. And actually, God's more interested in us having a rich relationship with Him and putting our security in Him than He is in us putting our security in money. If you missed that, let's go back and listen to the podcast. You can scan the flow code and get our app, which, by the way, if you aren't already aware, we have the message notes in our app as well, so you can follow along, or you can go back during the week and do a recap. If you're reaching for your phones, you can scan this. And by the way, if you weren't here last week, some of our people in the back row discovered that with our 2 new projectors, you can actually scan from the back row and it works. So you can scan this flow code. It'll take you to the Bible app, and it'll actually take you to Luke chapter 16, which is where Jesus literally is one of the places he talks about the faithfulness principle. You're about to see him use this expression: if you're faithful with a little, God can trust you with much. Okay? But actually, Jesus taught the faithfulness principle 4 different times. Like, his biographers record him teaching 4 different times in 4 different ways, and I'm going to actually hit all of them, just so we get an idea that this wasn't just some marginal kind of subject or topic, that this was actually something Jesus came back to again and again and again. And he taught it in different ways because he wanted his people to understand how we can position ourselves to walk with greater favor and greater blessing. Here we go. Luke chapter 16, verse 10. I'm going to read it in 2 different versions, the New Living Translation and then the New International Version. And how about you read the bold words out loud with me? Here we go. If you are, now, just, good, but wait. Good, top of the class. Notice he starts with the word if, meaning it's a choice, it's a decision, and we have to choose it. So, all right, ready, go, yep, keep your powder dry, but here we go. All right, if you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you're dishonest with little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. And a different version, say the bold ones with me: whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever's dishonest with little will also be dishonest with much. I put that second one here because the first thing we didn't understand is this is all about trust. This is all about us demonstrating to God that we can be trusted, that we're trustworthy. And look, I am super pragmatic, and actually I think a lot of the times God's super pragmatic. He doesn't like to waste stuff. So if we're not faithful with little, why would God waste more of his good resources on us? But if we are faithful with little, he's like, okay, cool. Let's kick it up a gear. Let's take it up a notch. So right out of the gate, principle number 1, manage your little. And the mistake that too many people make is they get this one back to front. And it sounds like this: when I have more, then I'm going to take things more seriously. When I have a nice car, then I'm going to look after it. When I get a better job, then I'm going to start bringing my best. When I have a nice house, then I'm going to clean it regularly. When I have more money, then I'm going to get better at managing it. But this is the exact opposite of the faithfulness principle. And I've seen this just play out. People that don't look after a cheap car, that maybe one day buy a new car, 5 years later, that thing is a piece of trash. Because it's about learning the faithfulness principle. So, this is one of the instances, Luke chapter 16, verse 10, that Jesus taught the faithfulness principle. But actually, he taught that, just that like a couple of lines, they were kind of a mic drop at the end of a story he just told. And I'm going to come back to that story, and then you'll see how it plays into Jesus dropping the mic, teaching the faithfulness principle. But let's skip over to another story Jesus told that makes the point about the faithfulness principle. And it's known as the parable of the talents. Okay, some of you know that. We taught that in our series, Rescued to be a Rescuer, a couple of months ago. In this story, the parable of the talents, there's 4 characters. There's the master, the boss, the owner, and then there was 3 servants. And what we discover is that the master or the owner, he was about to go on a long trip. And so he called these 3 servants to him, and he entrusted them with an amount of silver. And we discovered that the first guy, he gave him about $5 million worth of silver. I joked back at the time, like the cost of a tank of petrol. The second guy, he gave him like $2 million worth of silver. And the third servant, he entrusted with about $1 million worth of silver. And the master leaves, goes on his long trip. The one with the $5 million got busy straight away, started investing it, and after a period of time, he had doubled the master's money, $10 million. The guy that was entrusted with 2, he also got busy, made it into 4. The guy that was entrusted with 1, he didn't get busy, he got fearful, and he buried the $1 million. He didn't steal it, he didn't go to Vegas and put it all on red, he just buried it, okay? The master came back, went to the first servant. The first servant's like, hey, master, you're going to be real proud of me. I took your $5 million, I've made it 10. There you go. Second one, me too, master. Took your 2, made it 4. Third guy's like, well, I was afraid, so I buried the $1 million. Here you go, here's the $1 million. Again, didn't lose a cent, but didn't increase what he'd been entrusted. Well, the master's response to the first 2 was the same. The master was full of praise. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in handling this what? Small amount. Some of you are like, $5 million, $2 million, small amount. Wait, what? You know, to God, the number that you sometimes find intimidating when that bill comes in, when that financial pressure hits, does not scare God at all. It's a small amount. He's not going to run out. He's not going to be like, oh, boys. So now I'll give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. Look at this. The first 2 were faithful, and they discovered 3 things. Praise from God. I mean, I love this. As I was preparing this, I'm thinking like our puppies. We got a boy puppy and a girl puppy, and the thing that they love to hear the most is, good boy, good girl. And if I want them to do something, good boy, good girl. Now I'm thinking, I think that's what God says to me when I'm faithful. Hey, Marco, good boy, good boy, good boy. Because he wants me to keep going, do more of that, good boy, good boy. And I'm like, thanks, God. Right? I mean, how cool is that? Because some people think God's the opposite. He's all about catching us doing the wrong thing, and he's angry and he's shouting. This one, the master was full of praise. He gave them a promotion, and then he threw a party. Hello. Well, what about the third guy? Well, the third guy, Jesus said that the master said to him, first of all, take the bag away from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given. And then they'll have an abundance, but those who do nothing, even what they have will be taken away. So just thinking this through, like, why do we sometimes bury what God entrusts to us. And, the first guy was this guy. And I've said this before. When God calls us to do something, sometimes it feels a little intimidating at first. If it's a bit sort of beyond something you've done before, you can feel like, oh, that's going to require me stepping out of my comfort zone. You might like, I don't know how I'm going to do that, or how I'm going to make that work, or what. And so having a level of fear, just initially, I think it's kind of understandable. But the question isn't whether you have a bit of fear, it's whether you let fear have the final word in your decision-making process. Because fear will tell you the answer is always no. I can't. I shouldn't. And faith says, you know what? I am feeling a little bit out of my depth, but I am trusting in God and his goodness, so I'm going to do this anyway. I'm not going to let fear have the final word. Then there's this one, self-doubt. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not qualified. God, why don't you ask Bill over there? Bill's far more talented than I am. Or this one, sometimes you feel disqualified. Oh, if God knew what I thought, if God knew what I'd done, if God knew what I'd said. Here's the reality. He does. And he calls us anyway. We're not disqualified because it's not a performance. It's not a job interview. It's God's goodness and God's grace and God's forgiveness that even though some of the stuff we've done, we wish we hadn't, that God's capable of forgiving us and continuing to give us new opportunities. So self-doubt doesn't have to have the final word. But then there's this one, which I think maybe gets overlooked a little bit, and that's self-pity. Because did you notice that these 3 servants were all entrusted with a different amount? I mean, have you ever found yourself kind of looking at someone else and they've got more than you and you're like, oh, must be nice, and feeling sorry for yourself? Like if God loved everyone equally, why does he give some people more stuff, more blessing, more gifts, more talents, more opportunities? And feeling this kind of self-pity, which, by the way, no one ever complains themselves into a better life. Feeling this self-pity and this idea, and even, by the way, I even almost thought sometimes feeling a little bit of resentment. Sometimes resentment to the person that's got more, but sometimes resentment to God. Like, listen, God, come on, why are you holding back? Why aren't I the 5 million guy or the 2 million guy? No, I'm the 1 million guy. Great. I'm already behind. But I want to show you something in the parable of the talents that I think is often overlooked. And some of you know the parable of the talents, but I wonder if you've picked this one up, because the perspective of being sort of self-pity or resentful of God actually overlooks God's goodness. Let me show you again. So he gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last. And say the bold bit with me, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. God actually recognized that at the beginning, Mr. 5 million had more ability. Mr. 2 million didn't have Mr. 5 million's ability, but had more than Mr. 1 million's ability. And then Mr. 1 million's ability, well, okay, today you're behind them, but listen, you've still got the ability to manage 1 million. It's better than 0. This is an example of God's goodness. God didn't give Mr. 1 million 5 million because he knew he wasn't ready for it. It would have overwhelmed him. It would have buried him. This guy would not have been able to sleep at night. So he said, as a starting point, yeah, everyone gets different as a starting point, but according to your abilities. And then you grow, you try it, you put it into practice, you're faithful with a little. And guess what? Your 5 million ability becomes the ability actually not to manage 10 because he took the 1 and gave it to the 10. This guy's now Mr. 11. But he's growing his, and I'm saying his, could be her, but point being, but this is an example of God's goodness. God does give different people different amounts of stuff in proportion to their abilities. but it's not fixed. It's a starting point. Amen. And if you're faithful with little, Jesus says you can be trusted with more. It's an example of God's goodness. He wants to stretch us, but not break us. So, if you've got dreams of doing more, being more, having more, most of the time it doesn't start with big opportunities. It starts with being faithful, even in things that only seem like a little. All right, let's head back over to Luke chapter 16. This is that mic drop. If you're faithful in little things, if you're trusted with very little, in verse 10. And as I said, this is when Jesus dropped the mic, having just told this story. And the story was bonkers. Now, just a side note, Jesus actually dropped 3 aspects of faithfulness in verse 10, and he drops another one in verse 11 and another one in verse 12. You can go and read them. Please, I encourage you to do so. They're 3 of my life principles that I've learned from Jesus. He talks about faithful in the little. He then says about being faithful with worldly wealth. If you're not faithful with worldly wealth, he says, who would trust you with true riches? Hello. And then he talks about if you're not faithful with someone else's, who would give you something of your own? So you can read about that. But just focusing on this one, verse 10. He's just told this story. And as I said, bonkers story. Here's the story. It goes like this. So Jesus talks about this rich business owner who had been employing a manager to manage all of his financial affairs. And the word got back to the owner that the manager had actually been wasting the owner's money. So the owner calls the manager in, says, listen, pal, I know what you've been up to. You're fired. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to pull all of the records and the accounts together, and then you're done. So this manager, Jesus says, he thinks to himself, I'm too weak to dig ditches. Office job. I'm too proud to beg. So what am I going to do? He understands, this manager understands, this season of my life is over. I'm about to lose my job. I'm about to lose my reputation. He came up with a plan, and this was the plan. He called in, one after another, all of the people who owed the owner money, who had a debt to the owner, and he forgave 50% of the debt. Like, shh, half off you go. Like, the guy started ripping off the owner without the owner's knowledge. Now, the way these stories go, when Jesus tells these sorts of stories, the moral of the story is that the manager was a baddie. Don't be like him, because you'll get sprung and you'll get punished and you deserve it. But that's not what Jesus said at the end of this story. He said that the owner, when he heard what the manager was up to, admired what he was doing. What? The manager had figured out how to use resources that he didn't own. He was just managing on behalf of the owner for other people's benefit. Jesus says, here's a lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then when your possessions are gone, they'll welcome you into an eternal home. He was the good guy. Well, at least not the good guy, but be like him. Now, any Monopoly people here? Who's Monopoly? Monopoly board game, it's a classic. Yeah. We have Monopoly. We have Wargopoly. Gav's got Bunnings' version of Monopoly, which, by the way, there was a 2025 team edition. And some of your colleagues are illegally selling them on eBay. Neil, you need to report them. Anyway, Monopoly, it's a classic. But here's, and Monopoly, have you noticed some people take Monopoly very, very seriously? Like, very seriously? Like there's fights and there's arguments, there's cheating. I know of families who don't speak at Christmas because they played Monopoly in August that year. Like, that's it. Not talking to you anymore. Monopoly, stupid Monopoly. But look, one of the things that Monopoly teaches us about life is at the end of it all, it doesn't matter who's got the most paper, who's got the most houses, who's got the most hotels, because at the end of it all goes back in the box.
So true.
It's not ours, and we don't get to take it with us. And so this shrewd manager, he got it. He got it that Jesus calls us to manage what he entrusts us with for more than just us and more than just this life. Because at the end of it all goes back in the box, except the stuff that we've been able to benefit others and send on ahead. And we talked about this in our Elevate groups last week. Louisa and I, we're doing this, okay? And that's not us bragging. That's us saying, we're smoking what we're selling, okay? This is us. We're playing by these rules. We're not just leaders of Elevate Church. We're products of Elevate Church. Like, we get to see life change. We get to see new people. We get to see people baptized, people follow Jesus. We get to see generations coming on. People that have no hope coming in, finding hope, finding purpose, finding meaning. People that are broken, seeing Jesus restore them together. We get to see that. We give in order to see that. And so over the last couple of weeks, just teaching this series, we're not shaking anyone down. I said in week 1, relax. You don't have to have your guard up. Jesus isn't here to hustle you. He doesn't want to take something from you. He's all about something for us, something through us. And we're seeing people take some first steps. And we talked in Elevate group last weekend. Like, some people who haven't even started giving. We don't sit there and go, titch, titch, titch. We're like, cool, but like, what would it look like to start? And we just say, like, try giving $5 every payday. Just like, because here's the thing. It's like, oh, well, what's the point? Just a baby step. Do you know that consistent baby steps will take you a whole lot further than occasional big splashes? It just will, because they build your life in every area of life, including giving. And we've seen people do just start with $5. Like, oh, that's not even going to pay for Louis' extravagant birthday cake. It's not. It's about being faithful with little. Start somewhere. Just start. Take a baby step. And then we're seeing people taking next steps because they've seen God being faithful in response to their faithfulness. And they're seeing lives changed, and they like us, want to see more of that. So I'm unapologetically encouraging all of us to make sure we're at least doing something, being faithful with the little, whatever you define as little, which to God is $1 billion. So, feel free to give that amount.
We really hope you got a lot out of this message. If you live in the Perth area, we'd love for you to join one of our live experiences. For times and directions, as well as information, head to our website, elevatechurch.me. For those of you beyond the Perth area, we'd love for you to connect with our online experience, which premieres every Sunday via YouTube and Facebook Live, and on demand immediately after. And to partner with us to reach more people by giving financially, head to our website, elevatechurch.me, and also download our Elevate Church AU app.